Beer is one of the most common purchases in America. The bottle people grab without thinking, week after week. But many of the most popular beers on store shelves are not what they claim to be. Behind familiar labels are cheap fillers, adjunct grains, and brewing shortcuts designed to cut costs while giving the illusion of quality. In some cases, consumers paid premium prices for beers that later became the subject of lawsuits over misleading labels. That means millions of people are spending money on beers engineered to taste acceptable, not to be honest. Today we count down 10 US beers you should never drink. And the final one is a brand almost everyone assumes is safe. Number 10. Bud Light. It's the best-selling beer in America, the one you'll find at almost every sports bar, tailgate, and corner store from coast to coast. Bud Light has built an empire on being easy, affordable, and everywhere. But behind that iconic blue label lies a beer that serious brewers and beer enthusiasts have criticized for decades. Let's start with what's actually in the can. Bud Light is brewed with water, barley malt, rice, and hops. That rice isn't there for flavor. It's a cheap adjunct grain used to lighten the body and cut production costs. The result is a beer with an extremely low malt character, almost no hop presence, and a flavor profile so diluted it barely registers on the palate. Traditional brewers have long argued that rice has no place in quality beer making. Yet Anheuser-Busch uses it precisely because it's cheaper than barley and produces a lighter, less complex product. The numbers tell the story. A single 12-ounce can contain around 110 calories, 6.5 grams of carbs, and 4.2% alcohol by volume. That might sound light and harmless, but what you're really getting is water with a hint of beer flavor. Critics often describe it as thin, bland, and aggressively neutral. Pour it into a glass and you'll notice how quickly the minimal head disappears, leaving behind a pale, lifeless liquid with almost no aroma. Bud Light might dominate shelf space, but dominance doesn't equal quality. If you want a beer with actual character, this one deserves to stay on the shelf. And if you think this is as cheap as beer gets, the next one lowers the bar even further. Number 9. Natural Light. If Bud Light is the king of bland, Natural Light is its budget basement cousin. Affectionately called Natty Light by college students across America, this beer has become synonymous with frat parties, tailgates, and drinking games where taste is the last priority. But even by cheap beer standards, Natural Light cuts corners in ways that should make any beer drinker think twice. Brewed by Anheuser-Busch, Natural Light was created in 1977 with one goal in mind: be as cheap and light as possible. The ingredient list includes water, barley malt, cereal grains, yeast, and hops. Those vague cereal grains are typically corn or rice, used to strip away body and flavor while keeping production costs rock bottom. The brewing process is designed for maximum efficiency rather than taste, pushing out millions of barrels annually without any concern for craft or complexity. What makes Natural Light particularly frustrating is its marketing to young drinkers who often don't know any better. It positions itself as the smart, affordable choice for a good time. But the reality is, you're paying for carbonated water with a beer-adjacent aftertaste. The low price point creates a false economy because you're getting exactly what you pay for, which is almost nothing. If your only criteria for beer is that it's cold and cheap, Natural Light technically qualifies, but if you care even slightly about what you're drinking, this is one to skip entirely. And just when you think there is nowhere lower to go, the next beer proves you wrong. Number 8. Busch Light. Busch Light is another heavyweight in the budget beer arena. With its hunting-themed marketing and rural America branding, it's positioned itself as the working man's beer, the no-frills choice for people who just want something cold after a long day. But peel back the camouflage packaging and what you'll find is a beer engineered for volume, not quality. Like its Anheuser-Busch siblings, Busch Light relies on adjunct grains like corn and rice to keep costs low and the body impossibly light. The brewing process prioritizes consistency and mass production over any real craft. The result is a beer that's aggressively carbonated, almost fizzy to the point of being soda-like, with no malt depth or hop complexity to speak of. The carbonation is so pronounced that it often causes bloating and discomfort, especially when consumed in the quantities that budget beer drinkers typically enjoy. A 12-ounce serving comes in at around 95 calories, 3.2 grams of carbs, and 4.1% alcohol. Those numbers might appeal to calorie-conscious drinkers, but the trade-off is a beer that tastes like almost nothing. Critics describe the flavor as watery corn with a metallic edge, and the heavy carbonation makes it more filling than satisfying. There's often a lingering chemical aftertaste that becomes more noticeable with each subsequent can. Here's the problem. That carbonation tricks your stomach into feeling full while delivering virtually zero flavor payoff. You're essentially bloating yourself on fizzy water that happens to contain alcohol. Busch Light might have its loyal fans, but loyalty doesn't change chemistry. When a beer's main selling point is that it won't offend anyone, that's not a feature. That's a warning sign. And the next one perfects the art of brewing beer that tastes like nothing at all. Number 7. Keystone Light. Keystone Light has carved out its niche as the go-to beer for anyone watching their wallet more than their taste buds. It's a staple at college parties and budget-friendly cookouts, often chosen simply because it's one of the cheapest options in the cooler. But that rock-bottom price comes with rock-bottom brewing standards. Owned by Molson Coors, Keystone Light is brewed with water, barley malt, corn syrup, yeast, and hop extract. Notice the corn syrup and hop extract rather than actual hops. These shortcuts allow for faster, cheaper production at massive scale, but they strip away any character that might make the beer interesting. Real hops provide bitterness, aroma, and complexity. Hop extract provides none of those qualities, serving only as a cheap substitute that mimics the bare minimum of what hops should contribute. Each 12-ounce can delivers about 101 calories, 5 grams of carbs, and 4.1% alcohol. On paper, that's comparable to other light beers. In practice, it's a beer with no balance, no complexity, and no reason to exist beyond its price point. Reviewers consistently note a stale grain flavor, minimal aroma, and a finish that borders on unpleasant. The beer often leaves a sticky, slightly sour sensation on the palate that lingers long after the sip. And then there's the lawsuit. Keystone faced legal action over its packaging, which prominently featured the words "bottled in Golden, Colorado," despite the beer actually being brewed in multiple facilities across the country. The case highlighted how much of beer marketing is designed to create an illusion of quality that doesn't match reality. Consumers were led to believe they were getting something special when the product was no different from any other mass-produced beer. When a brand's biggest controversy is about misleading consumers on where the beer even comes from, that tells you everything you need to know. Keystone Light is mass production in a can, nothing more. And speaking of clever marketing hiding a thin product, our next beer has turned that strategy into an art form. If you're learning something new here, hit subscribe and keep these eye-opening breakdowns coming. Number 6. Coors Light, the silver bullet, the coldest tasting beer in the world. Coors Light has spent decades and billions of dollars convincing you that cold equals quality. Their cans even feature mountains that turn blue when the beer reaches optimal drinking temperature. But here's the secret. Coors doesn't want you to know all that cold branding is designed to distract you from what's actually in the can. Coors Light is brewed with water, barley malt, corn syrup, yeast, and hop extract. Like Keystone, it uses corn syrup during fermentation to create a lighter, cheaper beer. The company has defended this practice, claiming the corn syrup doesn't remain in the final product. But the fact remains that it's a brewing shortcut designed to cut costs rather than improve quality. Traditional brewers ferment with malted barley alone, allowing the grain's natural sugars to create alcohol and flavor. Corn syrup bypasses that process entirely. A 12-ounce serving contains about 102 calories, 5 grams of carbs, and 4.2% alcohol by volume. The flavor profile is thin, with minimal malt presence and virtually no hop character. What you taste is mostly carbonated water with a faint grain background. Beer critics frequently describe it as bland, empty, and forgettable. There's an almost clinical sterility to the taste, as if the beer was designed in a laboratory to be as inoffensive as chemically possible. Those color-changing mountains aren't a quality indicator, they're a distraction technique, redirecting your attention from substance to sensation. The colder the beer, the more the taste buds are numbed, and the less you notice what's missing. Coors Light isn't the worst beer on this list, but it might be the most cynically marketed. When a company invests more in thermochromic ink than brewing innovation, that says everything. And the next beer pushes cost-cutting so far, it barely resembles beer anymore. Number 5. Miller Lite. Miller Lite practically invented the light beer category. When it launched in 1975, it promised great taste with fewer calories, and America bought in hard. For decades, it dominated the market alongside Bud Light. But the brewing methods that made Miller Lite a commercial juggernaut have also made it a target for anyone who cares about what's actually in their glass. The ingredient list includes water, barley malt, corn syrup, yeast, and hops. Yes, corn syrup again. Miller Lite's use of corn syrup became national news during the 2019 Super Bowl when Bud Light ran attack ads calling out the practice. Miller defended itself by noting that corn syrup is used in fermentation, not as a final ingredient. But the controversy exposed an uncomfortable truth. Light beers rely heavily on cheap adjuncts that traditional brewers would never touch. The Super Bowl battle revealed that even major beer companies view corn syrup as a liability worth attacking in competitors. Each 12-ounce can contain 96 calories, 3.2 grams of carbs, and 4.2% alcohol. Those lean numbers come at a cost. The beer is heavily processed to strip away body and flavor, resulting in a product that many critics describe as hollow, bland, and artificially light. The processing involves multiple filtration stages that remove not just calories, but also any compounds that might contribute to taste or aroma. The taste itself is unremarkable. There's a faint corn sweetness, minimal bitterness, and a watery finish that disappears instantly. It's drinkable in the sense that it won't offend, but it also won't reward. Miller Lite is engineered to be consumed quickly in large quantities, not savored or appreciated. The brewing philosophy seems to be that the best beer is one you barely notice drinking. For a beer that built its legacy on being a lighter alternative, Miller Lite feels more like a compromise than a choice. And if brand loyalty can blind people, the next beer is proof of how powerful that effect really is. Number 4. Pabst Blue Ribbon. Pabst Blue Ribbon is the ultimate comeback story in American beer, at least from a marketing perspective. Once a fading legacy brand, PBR was resurrected in the early 2000s by hipsters, dive bars, and ironic appreciation. That Blue Ribbon from 1893 suddenly became cool again. But strip away the nostalgia, and what's left is a beer, struggling to justify its renewed fame. PBR is brewed with water, malted barley, corn, and hops. It's a straightforward American lager recipe, but the execution has drawn criticism for years. Unlike craft brewers who control every batch, Pabst doesn't even own its own breweries. The beer is contract brewed by Miller Coors, which means quality can vary significantly depending on where and when it's produced. This outsourcing model prioritizes cost savings over consistency, leaving consumers to wonder what they're actually getting each time they buy a six-pack. A 12-ounce can delivers about 144 calories, 12.8 grams of carbs, and 4.8% alcohol. Those numbers are higher than most light beers on this list, yet the flavor doesn't match the extra substance. Reviewers describe PBR as grainy, slightly sweet, and lacking the balance that separates a good lager from a forgettable one. There's often an unpleasant skunkiness that develops quickly, especially if the beer has been exposed to light or temperature changes during distribution. The inconsistency is perhaps the biggest issue. Some cans taste acceptable, others taste stale, metallic, or just off. When you're buying PBR, you're gambling on which version shows up. That's not a risk worth taking when better options exist at the same price point. The contract brewing arrangement means there's no single brewmaster ensuring quality across every batch. Pabst Blue Ribbon thrives on image, not quality. It's a brand that sells a feeling rather than a product. And the next beer skips flavor so aggressively it markets the absence of it as a feature. Number 3, Michelob Ultra. Michelob Ultra is the beer for people who don't really want to drink beer. It's marketed to fitness enthusiasts, health-conscious consumers, and anyone who wants to enjoy a cold one without the guilt. The branding shows athletes, runners, and active lifestyles, but when you engineer a beer around calorie counts instead of brewing quality, something has to give. The ingredients include water, barley malt, rice, and hops. Like other Anheuser-Busch products, rice serves as a cheap adjunct to lighten the body. But Michelob Ultra takes this approach to the extreme. The beer is stripped down to its bare minimum, sacrificing nearly all flavor and character in pursuit of nutritional stats. The brewing process seems designed to remove everything that makes beer taste like beer, leaving behind a ghost of what the beverage should be. Each 12-ounce serving contains just 95 calories, 2.6 grams of carbs, and 4.2% alcohol. Those are impressive numbers if you're counting macros. But the trade-off is a beer that barely tastes like beer at all. Critics describe it as watery, thin, and almost entirely devoid of malt or hop presence. Some have compared it to drinking lightly flavored sparkling water. Others note that even sparkling water has more character and refreshment value than what Michelob Ultra delivers. The marketing genius is undeniable. Michelob Ultra has grown into a billion-dollar brand by telling consumers they can have beer without consequences. But that promise is fundamentally misleading. You're not getting a healthier beer. You're getting less beer, period. The fitness lifestyle imagery creates an association between exercise and alcohol consumption that health experts have criticized as irresponsible and misleading. If your goal is to drink something light while socializing, Michelob Ultra technically delivers. But if you want anything resembling actual beer flavor, this isn't it. And our next entry swings hard in the opposite direction with brutal results. Number 2, Steel Reserve. If the beers we've covered so far are guilty of being too light, Steel Reserve commits the opposite sin. It's a high-gravity malt liquor designed for one purpose: maximum alcohol at minimum cost. And while that might sound appealing to bargain hunters, the reality is a harsh, unbalanced drink that sacrifices everything for potency. Steel Reserve is brewed with water, barley malt, corn syrup, yeast, and hops. The high alcohol content, 8.1% by volume, is achieved through extended fermentation and added sugars rather than quality ingredients. This process creates a beer that's boozy without being flavorful, strong without being smooth. The fermentation is pushed to extract every possible drop of alcohol, resulting in a product that tastes more like a science experiment than a crafted beverage. A 12-ounce can packs around 222 calories, significantly more than light beers. But those calories deliver a rough experience. Reviewers consistently describe Steel Reserve as harsh, metallic, and aggressively sweet with a burning alcohol finish. The aroma is often compared to solvents or nail polish remover. This is not a beer you sip and enjoy, it's a beer you endure. The aftertaste lingers unpleasantly, leaving a coating on the tongue that many describe as almost medicinal. The brand's reputation speaks volumes. Steel Reserve is frequently associated with problem drinking and has been criticized for marketing high alcohol content to low-income communities. While the company denies targeting vulnerable populations, the reality is that Steel Reserve occupies a troubling space in American beer culture. Public health advocates have called for restrictions on how such high-gravity malt liquors are marketed and sold. If you're looking for a strong beer, there are countless craft options that deliver higher alcohol with actual flavor and balance. Steel Reserve is simply potency without craft, strength without soul. And our number 1 pick takes questionable brewing to its absolute extreme. Number 1, Four Loko is less of a beer and more of a cautionary tale in a can. Originally launched in 2005 as a caffeinated alcoholic beverage, it quickly earned the nickname Blackout in a can after being linked to hospitalizations, alcohol poisoning cases, and even deaths among young drinkers. The original formula combined high alcohol content with massive doses of caffeine, taurine, and guarana, creating a dangerous combination that masked how intoxicated consumers actually were. In 2010, the FDA forced Four Loko to remove the caffeine and stimulants. But the reformulated version is hardly an improvement. Today's Four Loko contains up to 14% alcohol by volume in a 23.5-ounce can. That's the equivalent of 4 to 5 standard beers in a single container, often priced under $3. The sheer amount of alcohol packed into such a cheap, accessible package has made it a persistent concern for public health officials and parents alike. The ingredients include malt liquor base, artificial flavors, and high fructose corn syrup. The result is an aggressively sweet, syrupy drink that barely qualifies as beer. Flavors like watermelon, sour grape, and gold mimic sugary sodas rather than anything resembling traditional brewing. The sweetness masks the alcohol, making it dangerously easy to consume far more than intended. Many consumers don't realize they've consumed the equivalent of nearly a six-pack until the effects hit all at once. Critics and health advocates have repeatedly called for stricter regulations or outright bans. While Four Loko has toned down its most dangerous elements, the brand still prioritizes maximum impact over any concept of quality or responsibility. The marketing continues to target young drinkers with bright colors and candy-like flavors that obscure the serious alcohol content within. Four Loko isn't brewed for enjoyment, it's engineered for effect. And that's precisely why it tops our list of beers you should absolutely avoid. There are better ways to enjoy alcohol without subjecting yourself to something designed to overwhelm rather than satisfy.